Hey, what's going on? Eric Bach here, and welcome. If you want to look great naked without living in the gym, you are in the right spot. And what I want to do is I want to break down what actually goes into pricing when it comes to an online coaching program. And you see, pricing is something that is often kind of hidden. And there's some reasons for it, but it doesn't do anybody any favors. People want transparency. They want to know what they're getting into when it comes to coaching. And damn it, I'm going to show you, really help break down what goes into the entire idea of different pricing structures and what you get for your money when it comes to online coaching. And so what I want to highlight first is what drives up the cost of online coaching. And these are things that I think it's important both for coaches and consumers to truly understand. So number one, it's the level of service. For example, for our highest level of coaching, we have a concierge white glove service. So for example, if you're traveling, we'll find gyms for you. We'll set up your meal prep. We'll help you get blood work done. We'll get all of these little tiny factors that most people don't even consider. And so we have certain clients that are CEOs, that are high level athletes, entertainers, so on and so forth, where they simply do not have time. We literally take care of everything you can imagine when it comes to health and when it comes to wellness. So for example, let's say you need a soft tissue practitioner for an injury. Great, we'll get you set up. Need a meal prep company. Great, you need to find a gym at the hotel that you're traveling to for the next 2 days, and then another gym in a couple days. Great, we'll take care of all of that stuff. In addition to lab work, blood work, setting up meetings directly with doctors, training, nutrition, all of that advice that is all batched into one. So obviously, when you have a tier and a level of service that is that much higher, it is going to be something completely different, because when you are a high performer, the biggest thing that you struggle with isn't necessarily a lack of finances, it's a lack of time. You don't have the bandwidth to be able to focus on all these different elements of your health, and yet you value it because you understand that health and fitness is a force multiplier. Now, this level of service is not for everybody. This is like half of 1% of our overall clientele within the business, but it is something that the market does crave, and many of our clients absolutely love when they go through it and apply it. So obviously, when we have a higher level of service, like a concierge white glove level service, that is going to be playing a big factor. Number two, if you're incorporating things like functional medicine, biology-based coaching programs. For example, in some of our coaching programs, what we do is we get you set up directly with lab work, and not just going through and getting your cholesterol checked or the basic panel you get from a doctor. We're talking very comprehensive things that look at not just what is in alignment in terms of kind of a pass-fail grade when it comes to your health. It's what is suboptimal, what is optimal, what's too high, what's too low. And with that data, with that information, yes, we connect you with endocrinologists, with doctors to be able to interpret that information, because I'm not a medical doctor, but then we can take that information, we can apply it directly to creating a program that's truly built for you and for your biology. And so if you want to be able to optimize your health from the top down, obviously we want to have clear-cut data in terms of what that looks like. Right now, we see so many people that are guessing with their health. They think that they have issues with hormones. They think that they have issue with testosterone, libido, like all these different things that are going on. And if we don't get clear on what the data actually says, so many people end up wasting time and money on things that don't work and might actually set them back, but they end up wasting money on supplements that aren't really going to do a damn thing, right? So we want to give you something that's clear cut from there. Number three is going to be coaching experience. So, around 2020, obviously the world basically shut down, and there were so many people who just went online because they couldn't get clients in the gym anymore because gyms were shut down. So, and beyond that, there's always been a lower barrier of entry when it comes to the fitness industry as a whole. That's both a plus and a minus, right? People can jump in, they can get a lot of experience, but if they do not have the prerequisite education and experience, typically they're not going to be superior when it comes to their actual coaching or the service that they're going to offer, right? And so, for example, if you have somebody who's more experienced, who knows what dials to turn, who can truly be able to help you optimize your health and your life because they have a breadth of experience with so many different clients over the years, well, that's going to come typically at a higher price. We probably all heard the story that, a man goes in for a root canal, and the root canal or the operation takes 2 minutes, and he gets a bill for $2,000. And he asks the dentist, hey, wow, that was only 2 minutes. How come it's $2,000? That seems like a ripoff. To which the dentist says, well, I could take all day, but what you paid for is my expertise. You see, it took me 20 years to find out where exactly to drill and where to fix the tooth, right? And so when you're hiring a world-class coach, typically they're going to have a different layer of knowledge that most people don't even consider, right? That's why I still hire coaches, even though I've got 16 years of experience working with elite level athletes, working with men, working with women, doing any number of gamut of things directly as a coach. And so if you've got somebody who's been a coach for 6 months, they put together a coaching program, they're 25, they have a nice set of abs, and they get some fancy marketing, well, they might try to charge a premium, but are you really getting that level of service? No. Whereas I'm consistently working with, frankly, doctors hire me, other coaches hire me. I've worked with athletes in the NFL, NBA, NHL. We've had clients featured in women's health and men's health, and we've been featured in over 300 major publications. So with that level of experience, typically that's going to lead to a higher overall rate. Now, it says we also have coaches who we've worked with directly for 10 years, who we've hired to actually coach us as well, who are integrated as coaches now within our coaching program. So we have different tiers based on experience level that are important for us to consider. Number 4, the level of support and intensity. So for example, some of our clients are like, hey, you know what? I just don't want to have to think about what to do. I just want a coaching program. I want a nutrition program, and I want to check in every now and then just to make sure we're on the right track. Cool. Other coaching clients, they want to go in through and do blood work. They want to make sure that hormones are in a really good spot. They want to make sure they're having regular calls. They want education. So that higher level of support is also going to increase the overall price point because there's more output directly from the coaching team. And by extension, there's more value also delivered in relation to what that person is looking for. That's also going to impact the price. And then number 5 is going to be duration. So if you have somebody who's looking just to get ripped over 90 days, that's going to be a shorter duration. It might be higher relatively on a month to month because most coaching programs are front loaded with getting to know you, with onboarding, with all of those components. Whereas if we have something that's a little bit longer, like you're making a year-long transformation, yeah, the overall cost is going to be higher, but it's going to be a little bit lower, maybe on a month-to-month type basis. And so we have to factor all of these components in and then create a program that's truly built on you, that's unique for you and your biology. That's why we like to typically hop on a call directly with our coaching clients to truly get to know where exactly they're at. Because if we just give you a smattering of all of these different options, you're going to be like, oh my God, there's so many different things. I don't know what to do. I'm already confused. And that's why we typically like to hop on a call and go over them a little bit more in depth so we can truly create a customized plan directly around you. So put simply, more customization, more access, and concierge level service is typically going to be a higher level of service and then drive that price up a little bit. If you want something that's less intensive, then cool. It can be a little bit cheaper and more affordable depending on what your budget is. Now, what drives cost down? So we want to flip this around, right? What drives the cost down when it comes to an online coaching program? So first and foremost, programs that typically have less hands-on support are going to have a lower overall cost. Frankly, you can build good systems into a business and deliver a life-changing transformation without hand-holding every step of the way, right? You can do a lot of it directly via your phone, via directly engaging with clients, via message, so on and so forth. And when you have something like that, yeah, it's more time efficient for everybody across the board. So that would be one consideration. Next, it could be number of calls. Some coaching programs have 0 calls. Some have weekly calls. Some have basically around the clock access. Depending on what level of support that you want, that's going to play a big role in terms of what the pricing looks like. If you're not integrating things like lab work, blood work, the concierge level services that we talked about before, again, that's going to be a lower overall cost. It might not be as fully personalized based on your biology and what's actually happening under the hood, but again, not everybody is looking for that. And then finally, like more the number of check-ins that you're doing, right? So if you have somebody who's checking in a little bit more, you're having more conversations, higher level of accountability, we can make adjustments to that coaching program even faster based on what we're seeing, and then be able to deliver results typically a little bit faster in that regard. So if you think about it, whatever drives the price up, typically more complexity. If we have more overall support, more calls, more blood work, concierge level services, if you take those things away, well, that can drop the price down a little bit. So it really comes down, right? You can hop on a plane and you can fly business class, or you can fly basically coach, right? Depends which one you want to do. Do you want a higher level of service or do you want a lower level of service? You're going to get to the same destination. However, depending on which level is best for you, that's also going to play a role in terms of what the pricing looks like. Now, you might be wondering, why are some programs so expensive? Well, ideally, it's because they're actually very good and high quality, meaning they also have a select number of people that they can work with because they pour a lot into their clients directly. I wish this was the case universally across the board, but it isn't. Some people just jack their prices up and they don't necessarily have a leg to stand on. I would like to think that we are a little bit better in that regard based on our track record, based on the number of reviews that we have and the transformation success stories and the years of experience. But typically a premium price tag when it comes to coaching should obviously have a lot of client success. You should be able to find testimonials. You should be able to find reviews. You should be able to potentially find videos of clients talking about their experience and then make a judgment call for yourself. Next, you should understand that the coach has a depth of knowledge across training, nutrition, recovery, and lifestyle. It's one thing for a coach to say, yeah, just follow this meal plan right here and do this workout plan, but is it truly built for you, right? Ideally, if you want your progress in fitness to be something that's sustainable and practical, then the plan has to be curated based around you and your lifestyle, your food choices, so on and so forth. Where a lot of people run into issues is I think, I just need to know exactly what to eat with a meal plan and a workout plan to follow. That can work for a couple of weeks until you realize, oh my God, this meal plan isn't really built for me. I need something that adjusts with my lifestyle. And that's where the coaching, the accountability, and these different components really integrate together. A premium coaching program should also integrate advanced tools. That's why we do things like lab work. We connect our clients with doctors, functional medicine experts, so on and so forth, as needed for any potential issues that are there. I mean, we've had clients that come through and they do blood work thinking that they might have something going on with testosterone. And in reality, they actually had a biomarker pop up that indicated they might actually have cancer. And we've actually had that happen where people have come through for our coaching. And because we actually did some integrative testing to find out what was going on and holding them back, saved lives. And so it's pretty cool to be able to have that. However, when we're doing more in-depth testing and creating that overall experience, obviously you can expect that, we're going to increase the price in terms of what that looks like because we are covering the cost of many of these things and these connections. And so I think one of the most important things to understand is when you're working with a world-class coach, you're not paying them for the hour. You're not paying them for the amount of time they put into each individual coaching program. You're paying for precision. You're paying for precise. You're paying for somebody who knows what dial to turn at what time and be able to make those adjustments for you and curate a program that's going to really be practical and sustainable for you. So on the flip side, why are some coaching programs so cheap? I've seen a lot of coaches who frankly don't know better and they jump out and they put a very low price coaching program out there just because frankly, they're probably starving. They do not have a whole lot of income coming in and they will charge whatever they can just to get somebody into their coaching program and build things up. Again, I was a beginning coach at one point. I was going paycheck to paycheck for a while. I was working from 4 a.m. until 7 p.m. I totally get how that goes. So in most cases, though, when you're getting a coach who's charging something that's bottom of the barrel pricing, they're competing on price, right? Do you want to have a Walmart level experience or do you want something that's a little bit higher tier? A lot of times these coaches are inexperienced. They probably don't have a track record of success. They probably haven't built up systems, built up skills to be able to communicate with clients effectively through online and in-person communication. They typically will offer something that's a little bit more cookie cutter and not as customized. And they typically operate on volume. They will probably get a ton of people in, sell the same exact coaching program overall. They might spice it up a little bit. And then they charge very low because the amount of work that they're doing directly on that coaching program is a little bit lower. So cheap isn't always bad, right? A lot of times, I've got a lot of coaches who reach out to me on advice. I typically always recommend them start with a baseline level of service. And then as you build your skills and you build social proof that you're actually good at what you do, then you can consider increasing your prices. But a lot of times, these are going to be coaches who are not as qualified. They don't have as much experience. And so they might help you a little bit, but typically they're not going to be able to create that life-changing transformation truly that you're looking for. Now, digging in a little bit more specifically, where do our individual prices fall here at Bach Performance? So first and foremost, we have multiple products and multiple tiers. For example, we have programs that you can do on your own that are anywhere from $47 to $97. However, that's not necessarily coaching. Those are just basic digital products. So if we're talking about our platinum level coaching, our concierge level stuff, we're taking care of absolutely everything. And again, this is typically what we're doing with high level entrepreneurs, CEOs, founders, athletes, stuff like that. This is typically going to be $1,500 a month or $12,000 for the year. Again, we take care of absolutely everything. And so if your biggest concern is you want a clear-cut plan to be able to rapidly transform your life and not just your physical health, but your mental health and your cognitive function, your ability to perform in the boardroom, this is going to be something that's great for you. And we take care of absolutely everything so you do not have to worry about a single detail. The second level for us would then be our gold coaching. Here, you're still going to be able to work directly with a high-level coach. We're going to take care of your training, nutrition, accountability, all of these different components. And we even integrate blood work in the beginning. So you have a clear-cut plan to know what's happening under the hood. This is something that a lot of people are looking for simply because they feel like something might be off, but they can't quite put their finger on it. They feel like they're doing everything right, but they're not seeing progress. So typically programs like this, they're going to range anywhere from $400 to $700 a month. And they will typically incorporate calls, blood work, some of these other aspects. And then we have more of an entry-level coaching program where it's like training, nutrition, accountability, and some education components, but you're not going to have blood work. You're not going to have calls. Typically, these are anywhere from $62 a week to $100 a week, depending on the duration, so on and so forth. So that can kind of get you started around $250 a month. And so the biggest thing to understand is, there are different tiers based on what you're looking for specifically and what's going to be the best fit for you and for your budget. The average coaching program, especially nowadays, is going to be about $400 to $500 a month if you have a decent level coach. Higher tiers if you're incorporating things like blood work that are going to do some deeper dive diagnostics. And then I think it's important to also note that There are things like sales and internal offers. And typically once we have a client, the average client is with us for over a year, we will typically discount everything on the backside by around 20%, if not a little bit more. We will do some special pricing, stuff like that that's not available to the general public, specifically for the clients that are within the Bach Performance community. So hopefully that provides a little bit more context behind our individual prices and structure. But we have three core tiers: our platinum, our gold, and our silver. And then those are adjusting based on duration, so on and so forth. Now, I want you to understand the idea of lifetime value versus the initial price. Typically within a coaching program, there's going to be initial higher fee in the very beginning because the work is very much more labor intensive for the coach. For example, we're finding out what equipment that you have, designing initial programs, making a lot more adjustments, meal plans, if there's blood work included, if we're setting up, meetings with doctors, we're taking care of all these different components. Obviously, that is going to be a lot more front-loaded work directly for us. And to be honest, like one important thing when it comes to a coaching program is your pricing plays a big role in who you actually attract into the business. Anybody who's run a business can understand this concept, right? Typically, clients who are really going to haggle you on a lot of different pricing structures are going to also haggle you in many different aspects of the coaching versus being as compliant. Now, I don't want you to take that personally, but as a business owner for 16 years with multiple different businesses, I can tell that's definitely true based on what people are willing to invest in finding a solution. Just is what it is. And so when we're front loading everything and we're reviewing exercise form, correcting exercise technique, we're making a lot more adjustments as we kind of find that rhythm. We have more calls, all of that stuff to make sure that you are clear cut in what we need to focus on and to be able to get the best overall progress. And again, when it comes to getting started, there's always a little bit more in the beginning, and then the price typically drops. We have more flexibility as we get going there. For our business specifically, over 65% of our clients re-sign with us, and the average client who re-signs with us re-signs at least 3 times. They're with us for over a year. We've had clients for over 12 years as coaching clients. And it's not because they haven't made a transformation. It's because when they have something that's working for their health, why would they change, right? Why would they change? And ultimately, when you don't have to think about it, we can execute, walk into the gym with your phone and know exactly what to do and get great results. It's hard to beat that when it comes to creating that transformation. Now, finally, one thing that we also offer directly with our coaching, and I think all good coaching programs should do this, is we offer a conditional guarantee. Meaning we have a full money back guarantee in terms of what we do. It does require you to do the workouts. It does require you to follow the check-ins. It does require you to follow the program. Now, we will go as in-depth as we can in terms of making adjustments, in terms of curating the experience so it fits in your busy schedule. I think that's absolutely crucial if you want to be able to create a seamless transformation and be able to keep it. But ultimately, coaching is a two-way street. It requires communication on both sides. And one thing we always tell our clients is always run to us, not from us. And so when we integrate those components, we want to be able to dial in everything as much as we can. But if you're not doing the workouts, it doesn't matter how good the plan is, right? It's not going to work. So ultimately, if you do the work and it doesn't work for you, no questions asked. Here you go. Here's your money back. But we do track things like, are you doing the workouts? Are you checking in? And we will do everything in our power to make sure that the program is going to work for you. And again, we will put our money where our mouth is. And if it's not, there you go. Here's your money back. Now, one thing that people do not consider when they're looking at an investment with something like their health is the cost of not fixing the problem. And you might be thinking, what the heck does that mean? Well, think of it this way. Everybody thinks of coaching as a cost. And does it mean money is going out? Yes. But have you considered what it costs to not take care of your health? Because I think all of us can relate when we are not as dialed in with the way that we look or the way that we're performing. It's probably costing us the gap between where we are and what our potential is, right? So for example, if you are not confident in the way that you look and every time that you go out for dinner, you're self-conscious, or maybe you're not going out there and dating because you don't like the way that your clothes fit. Or maybe when you show up for a business meeting, you've got your gut hanging over. And by extension, people are judging that first impression when they see you and they're like, oh man, Bob here is a little bit sloppy. I wish he was taking care of himself a little bit more, because like it or not, people do judge a book by its cover. The way that we see somebody and make that first impression is crucial in the way that we interpret the things that they're going to say and the things that they are going to do. It might not be the most politically correct thing, but it's human nature. We do judge a book by its cover. And so that appearance does matter. And the way that we feel about our appearance comes out in a way that we communicate, whether we're confident, whether we're clear, whether we're concise. Not to mention the example that we set with our health is also going to be what's modeled and mimicked by those around us. As a parent, I can definitely relate to that. Our kids will model the good things we do, the bad things, and everything in between. They won't always listen to what we say, but they will model what we do. And so sometimes we have to ask, am I living true to that standard that I know that I can be with my health? Or am I passing on poor habits that come directly to my kids? That's something I think a lot about as a parent, something I've reflected on a lot, again, since becoming a parent. Now, breaking down a few numbers in terms of what the cost is of not being healthy. So first and foremost, people with chronic conditions account for 90% of all US healthcare spending, meaning chronic conditions, it's draining the overall system. Right. I empathize if you're battling some of these things, but if we can all get healthier, obviously it helps everybody overall in terms of the financials of the country. Right. Number two, the average healthcare costs for the average human with chronic diseases is over $6,000 per year. Somebody who's a healthy individual, $1,200 a year. So you might be looking at coaching and thinking, oh, this is expensive. But if you have a chronic illness like type 2 diabetes, which is completely reversible with an exercise and nutrition plan like our Look Right Naked protocol, well, $5,000 each and every single year on all these different things, not to mention lost productivity, makes up a big difference. So you could be in the same spot next year and be confident, be healthy, or you could save the money on health, but also end up paying it later on in terms of taking care of that chronic disease on a yearly and lifetime basis. Overall, US employers lose $575 billion a year in productivity from poor worker health. Yikes, as a business owner, that's definitely not ideal. You can probably relate as well. And then finally, sleep-related productivity losses range between $280 and $411 billion each and every single year. So when you're not sleeping, you're not rested, you're not recovered. Again, not only is your cognitive function down and your metabolism and your hormones and all of those things, but your overall productivity at work is also going to be on the decline. Now, again, think about the personal side effects as well. When we're not as healthy, we're going to have lower energy. We're going to have less confidence, meaning we're not going to show up as a person that we want. And we're probably going to melt into the couch after the workday, maybe instead of spending time with our partner or spending time playing with our kids because we are not healthy. We do not have enough energy. We could have lower libido and strained relationships. I've had people tell me that, they just don't want to have sex with their partner because they're not comfortable with their body. What is the cost of that? Not a good spot to be. Brain fog, poor decision-making, slower career progress. Probably wouldn't believe me when I told you how many clients of ours have had job promotions when it comes to taking care of their health. But our body is our billboard. It's our business card. It's what people see. It's how we represent ourselves. And so when we're strong, lean, and confident, you can probably think about when you walk into a room and you see somebody who takes care of themselves, you're like, they catch your attention, even if it's on a subconscious level, right? So we want to be able to make sure that, we are creating that attention, but the healthy habits that we build are going to lead to better overall brain function across the board. Then overall, of course, basic things like higher risk of disease and a shorter lifespan if you're not optimally healthy. No point in working your ass off all of these years to build a career, to build financial freedom and flexibility if you can't actually enjoy it when it comes time for you to retire. And much like compound interest when it comes to investing for retirement, that's how we have to view our health. Are we doing the things early and staying consistent with it? Or are we going to try to play catch up later on where it's that much harder? And so the ROI overall in improving your health is absolutely massive across the board. Now, next, I want to dig into in-person versus online coaching. So I've done a combination of coaching for over 16 years. I was collegiate strength and conditioning coach. I've worked with athletes really from the ages of 6 all the way to professional level, and so many clients in between. And there are definite benefits and frankly drawbacks of both online and in-person coaching. And I want to break down what those are specifically. So first, when it comes to cost, here's something that you need to consider. If you're working with a really good quality in-person coach, you're probably looking at $100 an hour, right? So we're talking $100 an hour. Within that hour, you're not getting full-fledged nutrition advice. You're not getting accountability. You're not getting education calls. You're not getting things like blood work. And so if you're working with that trainer for 4 weeks, 3 days, 12 sessions in a month, $100, that's $1,200 a month. And again, that doesn't include nutrition, training, or blood work, right? Some trainers are much less. They're typically going to be less experienced, not as good at what they do. And some are going to be much more. Online, you're typically looking at $400 to $600 a month, often with some holistic support in terms of training, nutrition, and really changing your healthy habits and lifestyle, which are the keys to really losing weight. A lot of people think, if I'm not with a trainer in person, it's not going to be built for me. I need that person to show up for me. Well, we'll get to that in a second. But the reality is what most people need help with more than anything is their habits, their nutrition, and their lifestyle. Those are the key drivers when it comes to fat loss, even more so than a training program. Now, when it comes to training techniques and when it comes to overall mechanics, in person, there are times where you can optimize people's mechanics and make hands-on adjustments. I'll tell you what, when I was working with elite level athletes, we might be moving the angle of their shin 1 or 2 inches, even less, to get the optimal force production angle for them to optimize their speed and reduce a hamstring. But most people are not elite level athletes. They just need to move a little bit better. They need to optimize some basic exercises and go from there. And so for 95% of people, online can do just as good of a job as the in-person aspects of it based on technique, proper cueing, proper communication across the board. And so, in person, can this really help in terms of hands-on connection, so on and so forth? Yes. However, Most people do not need that ultra high level. I do recommend people at some point work with a personal trainer in person if they're really unsure where their form is and that confidence, because that's going to hold back your training intensity. So that's something I definitely recommend. And even here, every now and then, I'll have a couple clients over at my house. I got a home gym here in Charleston, and I'll break down like a couple exercises and techniques that I think they need to improve on. That's a perk of being local. And of course, we can do things like events where clients fly in and we can dig into stuff like that as well. Online, we incorporate form checks and video breakdowns of technique before people even get started within our coaching program. So as a coach, I can look at exercises like a squat, a split squat, a deadlift, a push-up, and I can know exactly what's happening in terms of your thoracic mobility. So think posture, upper back mobility, in terms of lumbar support, in terms of anterior core stability. So like how strong your core is, hip mobility. Do you have any issues, any injuries? And based on that, we can adjust exercises, techniques, and know which cues to give you in order to create a program that's going to be optimal for you. And so when it comes to technique and mechanics, yeah, there are definitely some things that in-person coaching can do that online cannot. However, for most people, they don't really need that level of support, especially when you factor in the financial difference. Number 3, flexibility. When I was an in-person trainer specifically, I had so many clients who wanted to be at 11 and 12 during lunch hours, 4 and 5 in the evening, and then like 5 and 6 in the morning. Totally get it, because as an in-person trainer, you're typically working when other people are not. This has shifted a little bit the last couple of years when more and more people are working online and have flexibility. However, if you are looking for an in-person trainer, typically you're tied to that trainer's schedule specifically. Not always easy when you have a career and kids and travel. And one of the primary reasons I started actually my online coaching business was I had so many clients who travel on a regular basis. And I'm like, you know what? You kick ass when you're with me in the gym, but when you go on your trip, and I know you're drinking whiskey and eating at too many steakhouses, like that's when everything falls apart, because now you're not waking up on time because you're a little bit hungover, right? So we started incorporating the online aspect where we would take care of their workouts directly when they're traveling, adjust them, curate them, stay on top of the nutrition, stay on top of the accountability. And then they were back with me in person. Great. We could dial those things in a little bit more specifically. And so in person, typically you are going to be tied directly to your trainer's schedule. And because consistency is the most important thing when it comes to exercise, when it comes to making a transformation, if you're inconsistent because you're waiting on that perfect schedule for a trainer, well, guess what? You're probably going to be left in the dark. Online, you train when it works for you. You train what fits your schedule. You have the accountability. And so if you're a busy professional, if you've got kids, all of these different components, typically online is going to be better for you in terms of that flexibility. Now, an important note here. I've had people say things like, Eric, you know what? I just know that if I don't have somebody in person, I'm not going to show up. And here's what I would say to that. Ultimately, here's the decision you need to make. Do you always want to feel like you need somebody there for you to be able to exercise, for you to be able to take care of your health? Or do you want to learn that skill set that's needed in order to become self-sufficient, to be disciplined, to build a habit of exercising and have that be your identity? Because long term, that's what we all want, right? We want to become self-sufficient. We'd want to have to hire a coach. We want to be healthy. We want to be lean and be able to know exactly what to do when we are in the gym. The only way you get there is by stressing your system, stressing your body a little bit, meaning by going online, by having to work through those challenges of not always feeling motivated, but getting it done anyway. That's how we build that ability to become self-sufficient. But without it, training becomes a bit of a paid date. And for a lot of people, that's when they struggle. They fall off with their trainer, and then pretty soon they've yo-yoed up back and forth with the same 20 to 30 pounds for 10 years. Component number 4, lifestyle coaching. In-person will rarely include nutrition, sleep, stress management, blood work, and hormone testing. These are all things that are absolutely crucial if you want a plan that's fully synergistic, that's fully going to help you change your lifestyle, which is needed to be able to create that long-term transformation. This is where online coaching absolutely shines. We can dig deep into these areas, which for many are the things that are holding them back. For most people, they enjoy the exercise part. Not everybody, but most people. They work hard and they feel like they know what they're doing, but they're not getting results. And typically it's because nutrition, sleep, stress management, or something going under the hood means that their program is not truly aligned with their biology. And that's where the online component really stands out. Now, this next component is a little bit more personal to me, and I think all the coaches out there can relate, but really it's coaching sustainability. So let me give you a little insight in terms of what it's like being a coach. The vast majority of coaches will make about $40,000 a year and grind long hours. We're talking 5 a.m., split shift until 7 p.m. plus working on weekends. The average personal trainer lasts about 3.5 years in the industry and also has another job at the same time. So would you want somebody who is completely stressed out, has to take every client that they can just to make ends meet, and who is probably working multiple other jobs in order just to pay their bills? Or would you rather have somebody who is able to invest in their knowledge, who's able to commit to working with the clients who are the best fit for them instead of just saying yes to everybody who might be interested? Somebody who has, instead of 3.5 years of experience, 15 years of experience. right? The reality is for a lot of coaches, they have to take every single client who comes in there and they burn out. And even if they've had a good level of education, there are a host of other issues. So we have to consider that if they live in a bigger city, for example, they're probably making 30 to 40% of that hour that they charge. So you could have a trainer who is working 40 session hours a week, but they're making 30 to 40 bucks an hour because the gym is taking 60 to 70% of it. Because rent is so high everywhere, housing is so high everywhere, there's no way they can afford a property, no way that they can afford rent. So many are having to commute 45 minutes or longer just to get to that prime location to be able to charge what they're worth as a coach, adding an hour or two on either side. And so most coaches truly burn out. They don't have the time to be able to focus on the education side because they have to chase even a basic standard of living. And this doesn't even factor in that most coaches do not have any health insurance, any vacation, any one of these basic components, meaning they're constantly stressed about all of these different areas. And it's why so many good coaches actually burn out. And there's such a high churn rate when it comes to the coaching industry. The benefit of going online, and this is something that I saw early on, when I was like 22 or 23, and I'm like, damn, there aren't many coaches or even 35. What's going on? Is it allows coaches to build a sustainable long-term career. When you can do that, you can invest more in your knowledge. You can be better at what you do specifically. It gives you more time, more flexibility, more freedom, and the ability to focus on being excellent at what you do instead of just trying to make ends meet all the time. Because none of us make good decisions when we're in fear, when we're just trying to make ends meet, right? And so from a coach sustainability component, having that online aspect is absolutely crucial. And so when you're investing in a coach, that's something you should pay attention to. I know that the online industry definitely gets a bad reputation and there are some bad actors, but truthfully, there's a reason that most of the best coaches that you know the most about are online because frankly, especially in today's age, it's almost the only way to stay consistent, to stay viable, and be in the industry for a long period of time where you can become a true expert. So bottom line, in-person coaching, it is fantastic. I've had so many great experiences with my clients, so many great relationships that have been built. It's really, truly unmatched for like high-level technique and adjustments and that in-person connection that many of us crave. And so I found that it worked best when I was working with pro athletes where a millimeter difference meant millions or clients who basically had an unlimited budget to be able to pay me, right? This is the reality of it. Online, it's unmatched when it comes to developing an optimal lifestyle for keeping that accountability and cost effectiveness where we can adjust your nutrition, your lifestyle, and all of these components directly around you. Plus the online world, it's going to give you the ability to work with coaches who are not just in your local area, right? I've had coaches on 5 different continents or clients on 5 different continents, which has been very cool because they've read different articles that we've done. They've seen us on social media, so on and so forth. So hopefully that provides a little bit more information in terms of what goes into cost, what goes into pricing when it comes to building an online coaching business and what you might be looking to pay if you're a consumer. Now, what I want to do is highlight just a couple of very common questions that we get. And from there, we'll wrap everything up. So do you offer payment plans? Yes, we do. Typically, if things are done in a 1 or a 2 pay option, they are going to be at a slightly lower price because that allows us to obviously have that full on commitment from you across the board. And so we like to reward you from that. But we also have month-to-month style coaching, depending on the duration in terms of what that looks like. We also offer Affirm, Klarna, any buy now, pay later, which gives you the flexibility to actually set the financial terms for you while saving that bonus income or that bonus amount when it comes to paying for coaching. Number 2, why did I ask you to book a call about pricing? So we talked about many different components, and hopefully now that you can see, there are many different things that go into the actual cost of coaching based on the transformation. Somebody who needs to lose 100 pounds is going to be different from somebody who wants to lose 15 versus somebody who is a high level performer who's concerned about things like hormone levels. They don't have any time. They need somebody to really eliminate all the guesswork and everything that they do and save them that time so they can execute in every other area of their life, right? We can't really truly understand that until we talk to you in person. And frankly, with that in person, on Zoom, phone, whatever it is. And without that, we can give you some recommendations, but are you after something broad or are you after something that's built specifically for you? And that's the important thing to consider. Do we offer any discounts? We do for veterans and first responders. We do have preferential pricing and stuff like that as well for existing clients, so on and so forth, referrals, spouses, all of those things. Then ultimately, if you sign up for a program, can you switch later? Usually, yes, it just comes down to having a conversation. We can make those things adjustable. No problem with that at all. But ultimately, gang, hopefully you found this to be incredibly valuable and insightful. I really wanted to answer the question, how much does online personal training cost? And I wanted to answer that question, but also highlight what exactly goes into that. And so if you're interested in working with us directly, all you need to do is reach out to me over on Instagram at Bach Performance. Send me a message with the keyword coaching or the keyword lean. I will reach back out to you. And if you want to hop on a call, great. All you got to do is check out the link below, book a time to chat, and we can go over the option that is best for you. Until next time, take care.